A very good afternoon, everyone. Great to have you all here. Thank you for taking time to join us today. We're all set to dive into an important discussion on the marking and labeling compliances under the plastic waste management rules. Please allow me to introduce you to our organization, AA Garg and Co. We are a management consulting firm and subject matter experts under the domain of circularity and sustainability. We specialize in the domain of EPR, ESG, corporate finance and business operations, and tech enabled solutions. Our greatest asset is our people, a tapestry of sustainability specialists, environmental engineers, MBAs, chartered accountants, technical experts, and senior partners who collaborate seamlessly to tailor every engagement to your unique objectives. At AGARC, we are passionately committed to delivering value added services that not only meet your goals but also leave a lasting positive imprint. With over 5 years of domain knowledge and expertise, A2G has guided numerous companies to successfully meet their EPR objective and compliance requirements across multiple obligated waste streams. We provide wide range of services such as EPR compliance, risk assessment, consulting, and advisory. Since we have a house full here, it's great to see so many of you here. I would like to welcome you to our webinar on marking and labeling compliances under the plastic waste management rules. I am Ishika Sisodia and it's my pleasure to be guiding you through today's session. Before I introduce you to our speaker panel, here's a quick look at what we'll be covering in today's session. We'll start with the latest updates on the Rule 11 regarding the latest marking and labeling requirements set out by CPCB. Next, we'll dive into the FSSAI rules and guidelines regarding the recycled PET. And finally, we'll take you through the annual return filing process so that we can meet all your compliance deadlines with confidence. With that overview about today's agenda, let me introduce you to our expert speakers for today. Today, we have a panel of distinguished experts, each one bringing a unique blend of technical mastery, regulatory insight, and hands-on experience in EPR and sustainability advisory. Firstly, we have today Mr. Abhishek Garg, founder of AA Garg & Co. Mr. Garg is a seasoned chartered accountant with over 15 years of experience in EPR compliance and sustainability strategy. Under his guidance, A2G has architected end-to-end compliance frameworks for some of India's largest companies. While he won't be presenting in the main session, Mr. Garg will join us at the last for the Q&A session. Then we have Mr. Sujain Jain. He is also a chartered accountant by qualification. With over 5 years of experience, he blends deep expertise in corporate finance with specialized consulting in EPR and ESG. He has led a packaging footprint analysis for major FMCG companies across Asia, helping translate complex regulatory requirements into clear, actionable roadmaps. Next, we have Mrs. Himani Aaron. She brings more than a decade of experience in waste category and the circular economy, having built in efficiency recycling systems alongside industry stakeholders. She now leads a large-scale EPR projects that balances environmental stewardship with commercial objectives. Rounding out, we have Mr. Prathamesh Chitroda, with over 3 years of specialized experience as an EPR expert. He has supported over 150 PIBOs in navigating compliances with India's evolving waste management regulations. Beyond plastic waste, he possesses comprehensive expertise in EPR frameworks for e-waste, battery waste, and end-of-life vehicles, ensuring holistic environmental compliance across multiple sectors. Moving ahead, Before we dive into the session, I'll take you through few important guidelines that we want you to adhere to ensure a smooth session. The house rules for today would be that the meeting will be recorded. Only the discussions would be recorded without attributing to the speakers. We request you to please refrain and spamming from the marketing during the session. The Q&A session will be held at the end. Kindly restrict the discussion to the mentioned topic. You can enter your queries in the Q&A section. The moderator, will read them out during the Q&A session and the experts will address them accordingly. In view of the time limitations, we would request you all to avoid repetitive questions. Please note that the current presentation will not be distributed out of security reasons. However, we can share the same on request basis. Now, before any further ado, we should kick in on the webinar. And I'd like to invite Mr. Sujain Jain to begin the discussion. He will give us an overview of the latest marking and labeling guidelines under the plastic waste management rules.
Thank you, Ashika.
Over to you, Sujain.
Thank you, Ashika. A very good afternoon to everyone. I appreciate you all taking time to join today's webinar. So, the journey of marking labeling requirements under the plastic waste management rules has seen a significant evolution since the time of its inception. To begin with, I would like to highlight a recent important development. On 28th of April 2025, the CPCB had issued a notice reiterating the obligations under Rule 11, particularly the newly introduced Rule 11(1)(a). This rule mandates all the PIBOs that they must comply to the updated marking and labeling requirements on the packaging. Further, as per the notice, this compliance comes into effect and is mandatory to be followed from 1st July 2025, and the PIBOs are expected to inform the Central Pollution Control Board using a specific format which I will take you through in the next slide. While the submission is expected to be done on CPCB's EPR portal, but currently we haven't seen any of those functionality on the updated portal. So with this context, let's delve deeper into what the changes mean for the stakeholders. This is the format which has been provided, wherein firstly the PIBOs are expected to fill in their company name, their EPR registration, the category of plastic packaging for which they are reporting, the thickness of the plastic packaging. This is specifically for category 2 packaging. Then the registration number of the compostable or the biodegradable plastic. And lastly, the option which is to be selected. There are 4 options which have been provided by the Central Pollution Control Board. That is first the barcode, secondly the unique QR code, third the product information brochure, and fourth is the unique number. Along with the submissions, the PIBOs are also expected to submit the soft copy of the packaging label in case they are using a QR code or a barcode, a soft copy of the product information brochure if they are inputting the image in the product information brochure, or a soft copy of a packaging label with the unique number and the legal reference. The submission is to be done on the portal. It will be activated very soon. Next slide, please. Okay, so now this is the one page of view of the overall requirements under the marking for the marking labeling under Rule 11(1) and 11(1)(a). So on the top, you see the 5-6 categories of plastic wherein the expectation of how the packaging is to be broken up. So for example, category 1, category 2 flexible and monolayer, category 3 flexible with MLP, category 2. Category 3 multi-layer, category 4 compostable, and category 5 biodegradable. On the left side, we see the requirements, which is the name and registration number of the PIBOs, the thickness, any specific registration number which has to be mentioned by the PIBO, a specific color marking and labeling requirements, and some requirements with respect to the recycled content if it is included in the presentation, if it is included in the packaging. Firstly, for name and EPR registration number, it is mandatory under all the categories to mention the name and registration number of either the producer, the brand owner, or the importer. In terms of thickness, thickness is only applicable in case of category 2 monolayer or single layer plastics, wherein in case of carry bags, it should be more than 120 microns. Plastic packaging, it should be more than 50 microns, and non-woven plastic carry bags, in which case it should be more than 60 GSM. So what I'll do is I'll just, in interest of the audience who were not able to view this slide, I'll just begin with the slide again. So this is a one pager summarizing the requirements of marking labeling under the plastic waste management rules for the plastic packaging, which is being introduced. On the top, you see various categories of plastic packaging, that is category 1, category 2, category 3, category 4, and category 5. For category 2, there are some obligations which are only for flexible monolayer or single layer, and some for flexible, that is category 2 multi-layer, that is plastic plus plastic layer. Hence, we have broken them into two parts. On the left hand side, you can see the various compliance requirements which are there, namely name and registration number, thickness of the plastic packaging, specific CPCB registration number if it has to be mentioned, specific color marking requirement, requirement of marking and labeling in terms of using recycled content. So if you see the name and registration number, it is mandatory in case of all the packaging. For category 1, it was introduced, then it was abolished, and after that, through an amendment dated 30th October 2023, it was again introduced into the plastic packaging from 1st July 2024. Kindly note the name and registration number can be of the producer, the importer, or the brand owner. In terms of thickness, the requirement is for flexible category 2 monolayer packaging, wherein the carry bags have to be more than 120 microns, the plastic packaging has to be greater than 50 microns, and in case of non-woven plastic carry bag, it can be more than 60 GSM. Specific registration number. So as you are aware, if you are manufacturing or selling compostable or biodegradable plastic packaging, in that case, you have to separately register with the CPCB along with your current registration, wherein you are allotted a separate registration number, which is expected to be mentioned on the plastic packaging, which is compostable or biodegradable. Additionally, for compostable and biodegradable packaging, you are also expected to mention about their compostability, and in case of biodegradable, their biodegradability. Example, in how many days does this packaging get biodegradable and in what conditions. Again, so this all parts forms the part of Rule 11.1, and the recycled, the marking and labeling which is to be done for the recycled packaging or the packaging which has recycled content form the part of Rule 11.2, wherein it is mentioned that the each packaging with recycled content shall have or shall contain a statement that is recycled, having a specific percentage which is there in the packaging of recycled plastic. So for example, let's say we have a sachet which has a recycled plastic content of 20%, then we need to mention recycled having 20% of recycled plastic on the packaging. Further, we also have to ensure that these are in compliance with the BIS standard 14534 and have the polymer logo on the packaging. Lastly, amendment which was introduced into the rule, a wide amendment dated 28th January 2025, wherein the PIBOs were given an additional option. Ishika, can you go back, please? Wherein the PIBOs were given an additional option of printing the barcode and the QR code on the packaging, or providing the information in the product information brochure, or through a unique number. I guess we have covered this in the previous slide. There are some exemptions to the marking and labeling rules, wherein if they are covered under the Rule 26 of the Legal Metrology Act, there need not be a plastic the marking labeling on the packaging, or also in case where the information is technically not feasible to be provided on the packaging or the goods due to some guidelines under a BIS standard or under BIS for a compulsory registration scheme for IT products. But in this case, you need to ensure that it is mentioned on the secondary packaging if it is not done in the primary packaging. So we have here some examples of how the marking labeling is to be done on the packaging. So this is an example for category 1, wherein the name and the registration number of the brand owner is mentioned. In case of category 1, there is no requirement for thickness, hence it is not mentioned. Ishika, can you go ahead quickly? Yeah, this is an example of category 2 monolayer packaging, wherein the name of the producer is mentioned, the PWM registration of the producer is mentioned. Please note that this registration number begins from BO in case of brand owner, PR in case of producer, and IMP in case of importer. Um, Using the CTO number is not a valid option. So it should be the PWM registration number. If you see in this packaging, the thickness is also mentioned that the thickness of this material is more than 50 microns. Again, there is a disclosure with respect to the recycled content, wherein it has been mentioned that this contains 50% recycled plastic content. In this slide, in this packaging, there is no mention of R50, which is mandated under the BIS rule. Uh, Hence, there needs to be an improvement in this packaging. Also, there are some additional compliances with respect to the SPCB. So, for example, if the goods which are being sold or consumed in the state of Maharashtra, there needs to be mention of a buyback price. So, in this case, if you can see, there is a mention of the buyback price, that is 10 rupees per kg in Maharashtra. So this is the case of category 2 multi-layer packaging, wherein it's a layer of plastic plus plastic. In this case, there is no requirement of thickness. Hence, you see there is only a registration number of the brand owner and the name of the brand owner, which is mentioned in the packaging. Yes, Ishika, move on. Again, this is an example of category 3 plastic packaging, wherein the registration name and EPR registration number of the packaging of the brand owner is mentioned. So this is a example of how a packaging or a plastic packaging with recycled content should be ideally labeled. So if you see on the left hand side, firstly you need to mention that this packaging is made from 100% recycled content, and they have clearly mentioned that only the bottle is made from recycled content and not the cap and the label. They have mentioned the EPR registration number. They have mentioned R100, which is mandatory under the BIS rules. And they have also mentioned the thickness, which ideally is not required in the case of the minimum weight, which is not required in the case in the PWM rules, but they have mentioned it on their self. So yeah, Ishika, this is it from my side. Thank you everyone for patiently listening to it and bearing with us. Thanks, Ishika.
Thank you so much, Sujan, for your insightful and detailed explanation regarding the marking and labeling methods. Moving ahead, I would like to welcome our next speaker for today's session, Mrs. Himani Aaron. She will be taking us through to the latest updates about the FSSAI regulations and the update about the new plastic packaging scoring criteria. Over to you, Himani.
Thank you, Ishika. Thank you, everyone, for joining and being so patient. Yeah, we can start now. Next slide. I mean, we'll start with the order which FSSI published on 3rd of April. So it mentioned about the reclassification of scoring of food grade packaging. So under this order, they have considered this as a critical component, and they have updated the same in their food safety inspection checklist. So considering this as a critical component, they have increased the score of food grade packaging question from 02 to 04. And to obtain a 4 score, the food business operators must have the certification of conformity from NABL accredited lab as per FSS regulation 2018. So this order is basically impacting 5 sectors in total. On my left side, you can see the impacted sector. There are total 9 sectors in the inspection checklist, out of which 5 are impacted under this order. This complete checklist is divided into 5 sections. And from these 5 sections, only the control of operation section is impacted because of this order, as the question which is related to the food grade packaging is mentioned under this section. You can see the list of questions which are mentioned in the below table along with the sectors. Now the once the auditor audit the food business operators facility, they grade them basis on the quality of the quality of their available documents and other things. And for that, there are two types of question. One is the non-critical question, which has a scoring of 2. Another is the critical question, which are asterisk marked and which has a scoring of 4. And based on them, they are considered as compliant, non-compliant, partial compliant, and not applicable. So, as our food grade packaging material question is considered as critical now, so failure to meet any critical requirement will lead to non-compliance. After grading, after scoring of all the questions, the total mark is calculated, and based on that, grade is given to the food business operator. And you can see the table under the grade column that based on the marks, the grade are being provided. Next slide. So now we'll move to food safety FSS regulation 2018 amendments. So as you all know that FSS first published the regulation on 24th December 2018, where they mentioned that the products which are made of recycled plastic shall not be used for packaging, storing, carrying and dispensing articles of food. So recycled plastic was not considered in the starting. But on 18th January 2022, they have amended this, and they considered that recycled plastic, including the carry bags, can be used for packaging, storing, carrying, and dispensing. And along with this, they have also mentioned that such packaging materials shall also comply with other national standard regulations as applicable. Under this amendment, they have also added an annexure which talks about the guideline for recycling of PCR PET. So after this, the recent amendment, which is published by FSSI, is on 28th March, which says that only the products which are made of recycled PET can be used for packaging, storing, carrying, and dispensing. So in this, in the recent amendment, they have clearly clarified that only the recycled PET is as of now accepted by the food authorities. So, other than the amendments which are shared for food regulations, they have also recently published the guideline for acceptance of rPET as FCM material on 16th of April. Next slide. So basically, this guideline talks about that when we are using rPET, food contact material, what are the things a person who is manufacturing this rPET or who is using this particular granule has to take care of. So first of all, the material which the person is procuring should be of PCR PET, which was used previously for only food application, and that can be used for that can be recycled and can be used as FCM rPET and can be claimed so. So this rule is applicable to the operator of the recycling process, and in this guideline they are referred as manufacturers. Any person who is operating this recycling facility, they have to register to the food authorities as per Form 1. And after the assessment, the food authorities will authorize or reject as per Form 2 to the facilities. And both these forms are given in the guidelines. Then they have also defined the recycling process. So there are 3 mechanical recycling process which they have defined. So super cleaning recycling process, melt-in recycling process, and paste-in recycling process. These 3 are the conventional mechanical recycling process along with the advanced decontamination technology. So this is what they have considered. Along with this, they have also mentioned chemical recycling process. In this, because of the depolymerization, the PET will be distributed into the monomers. And they have mentioned that as per ISO 15270 guideline, the purified monomers can produce virgin quality polymers. Then the document also talks about the testing technologies. So challenge test is one where the acceptance level is below 220 microgram per kg. extraction test, migration test. In this, the acceptance level is below 10 microgram per kg. And they have also mentioned that the FCM rPET shall be tested in NABL ILAC accredited lab in compliance with IS 12252, IS 9845, and 9833 as amended. So they also talk about the document also talk about the process requirement. So the complete process from start to input, validation, output, and the complete process operation and management quality assessment is mentioned in this document. The FCM rPET, which is conformed to the specification of PET, that is IS 12252 and ISO 13302, will be accepted as a food grade FCM rPET material. Next slide. Shika, next slide. Yeah. So one of the very important and a mandatory requirement highlighted in this document that whoever is making this FCM rPET or using this, they have to mark and label this particular symbol, which you can see on left side of my slide. So in this, the FCM mentioned the food contact material, rPET is the recycled PET, and X is the percentage of the recycled resin used. So this is how you have to mention on the granule packet which you are making. And then along with this, the packaging material is made with recycled PET. This should also be mentioned. And any other specification on national regulation shall be complied with. Whatever else is there, that you have to follow. So other than this, the compliance adherence says that all the manufacturers, converter, beverage bottlers, food packers, FBOs, they have to maintain and provide relevant documents, report certificates to downstream customers as per ISO 22095 and EN 15343. So the manufacturer of FCM rPET should also provide declaration for compliance adherence. All the obligated entities in the food packaging chain should have valid FSSAI registration number. The recycle percentage of the food grade packaging shall be calculated as per EN 15343 with control blending methodology. The manufacturer and converter shall maintain valid audit reports for verification, and all the obligated entities shall follow relevant standards, process, and guideline as applicable. So these are the major compliances which one has to follow if someone is using the recycled PET for food contact material. This will help to develop the traceability and also ensure that the chain of custody is there, and there is a way to confirm that the material which is being used is as per the applicable standards. So thank you so much. Over to you, Ishika.
Thank you, Imani. Thank you so much for shedding light onto the latest FSSAI guidelines. We request all of the participants to please put down their queries in the chat box. Now, I would like to welcome our next speaker for today, Mr. Prathamesh Chitroda. He will guide us through a step-by-step annual return filing process for the plastic waste packaging. Over to you, Prathamesh.
Thank you, Ishika, and good afternoon, everyone, for joining this call. Yeah. So, when we say annual return filing, altogether there are so many questions that arises around what is the due date for filing the annual return? Is there any extension for annual return filing? And what are the details that would be required to file an annual return? So, allow me to help you with the details or the updates which will help you for filing the annual return. So, in terms of updates, as of now, the deadline for filing the annual return for FY 24-25 still remains the same for 30th June, and there is no extension onto the same. Secondly, annual return filing page FY 24-20 annual return filing is not yet active onto the portal. However, as an update into the annual return filing process, they have activated the uploading details for FY 26-26 of your procurement and sales details onto the portal. So these are the quite updates from the recent development onto the portal. Secondly, when we say annual return filing, there are a lot many details which are being required. Let me help you with some of the prerequisites to file the annual return. So these prerequisites include uploading of your purchase and sales transaction onto the portal, consumption details of your pre-consumer waste, recycle content which, which would be coming in from our registered recyclers into a brand owner or a producer account, arrangement of EPR credits for fulfillment of EPR obligation, which will help us to file the annual return. And lastly, the annual return filing application fees. These are the prerequisites which we need to keep ready for filing an annual return successfully. When we say purchase and sales transaction upload onto the portal, let this slide highlight that what all details are needs to be updated manually onto the portal and the details which might get auto fetched onto the portal. So let's take an example of brand owner. In case of a brand owner who is registered onto the portal and its vendors are also registered onto the portal, the details of procurement would get auto fetched onto the portal for a brand owner. And if the producer is unregistered, then we need to manually input those details onto the portal for the procurement. And similarly, all of the entities have their identical repercussions to be completed onto the portal. Further, as I said, the details might get auto fetched onto the portal. So to view and detail which is auto populated, this is an example that how we can view actually onto the portal that which entry has been posted by with the help of the available details of the registered entity, registered type, and the EPR invoice number which gets generated onto the portal while uploading of sales details. Further, when we say purchase and sales transactions to be uploaded, there are a total of 16 data points which needs to be updated onto the portal to successfully post one single entry onto the portal along with the invoice copy which needs to be uploaded to complete a single transaction for procurement and sales. The additional details that would required in the sales transaction would be the bank account code and the IFSC code of the entity. Second part is when we talked about the PCR content or the recycle content that needs to be updated onto the portal by the registered recycler, the impact of that falls onto the validation of the purchase and sales transaction which needs to be undertaken or the taken care of. Okay. So looking at to the example, when we say we have when we look towards the total, the data is validated within the range, wherein the range decided on the CPCB portal is plus or minus 40%. So if we see the total, the data is validated quite below the plus and minus 40% criteria. But when we talk about the category 1, so the validation works across for deviation in procurement and sales detail as well as for the plastic recycle content coming in and going on to the registered entities. That's how the consumption and the validation progresses onto the portal. As in prerequisite, when we said that fulfillment of EPR targets, so fulfillment of EPR targets can be done by procuring the EPR credits from the registered recycler. So whatever the EPR credits that are being transferred by the registered recyclers to an entity would be shown over the part in the wallet section of an entity's portal login, wherein they can see the credit transaction, wherein the details that are coming in, and the debit transaction means wherever we have shared the EPR credits to some other entity, wherein sharing the credits to other entity it's not possible onto the portal. Yes. So when we say utilization of credit against the EPR targets, so this is an annexure which will help you to understand that how the credits are being transferred from your wallet to your annual return filing tab, which helps you to get obligated and comply the obligation of the EPR target. However, while doing this transaction, there would be an OTP which would be received onto the registered mobile number while doing each transaction or transfer of credits. Secondly, there was a restriction onto the portal wherein the credits were not able to be transferred to other entities, wherein now, as on today, CPCB portal has allowed the transfer of credits within the same pen and the same pen of an entity. And lastly, when we complete to all the details of uploading of procurement and sales transaction, validation of the data, and adjustment of EPR credits against the EPR target, this is the final annual return filing tab, which gets reflected onto the portal for the final submission, wherein at the end would ask you for the payment of the application fees against an annual return filing. Yeah. So thank you so much. All over to you, Ishika.
Thank you so much, Prathamesh. Given the deadline approaching for the annual return, this walkthrough was so crucial. So, a huge thanks to our incredible speakers and each one of you for being a part of today's session and being so patient. Your participation made this webinar a great success. We'd appreciate your engagement and look forward to staying connected with you. Thank you once again and see you for the future sessions.